Welcome back to Literary Criticism. In this video, we are going to learn about archetypal criticism. Archetypal theory and criticism, although often used synonymously with myth theory and criticism, has a distinct history and process. The term archetype can be traced back to Plato. It originated from two words, one arche, original, the other one is typos, which means form. The concept gained currency in 20th century literary theory and criticism through the work of the Swiss founder of analytical psychology, Carl Gustav Jung, 1875-1961. Jung's Psychology of the Unconscious and James G. Fraser's The Golden Bough, a study in magic and religion, formed the basis of two allied but ultimately different courses of influence on literary history. Archetypal literary criticism is a theory that interprets a text by focusing on recurring myths and archetypes in the narrative and symbols, images, character types in the literary work. It denotes recurrent narrative designs, patterns of action, character types, themes, and images which are identifiable in a wide variety of works of literature as well as in myths, dreams, and even social rituals. Such recurrent items result from elemental and universal patterns in the human psyche. Myth comes from the Greek word muthos meaning utterance by mouth. Later, myths came to denote a fiction in which supernatural beings are involved and which offer explanations of nature mysteries. According to Jung, myths are the culturally elaborated representations of the contents of the deepest recesses of the human psyche, the world of archetypes. According to Jung, the collective unconscious contains archetypes, or universal primordial images and ideas. Jungian psychoanalysis distinguishes between the personal and collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is a number of innate thoughts, feelings, instincts, and memories that reside in the unconsciousness of all the people. Collective unconscious is the psychic disposition shaped by the forces of heredity. The content of the collective unconscious are the archetypes which are expressed in myths, religions, dreams, and private fantasies as well as in works of literature. Archetypal criticism based on Jung's psychology searches texts for the collective motifs of human psyche, which are held to be common to different historical periods and languages. Maud Bodkin's Archetypal Patterns in Poetry, the first work on the subject of archetypal literary criticism, applies Jung's theories about the collective unconscious, archetypes, and primordial images to literature. Northrop Frye and Archetypal Criticism. At mid-century, Canadian critic Northrop Frye, 1912 to 91, introduced new distinctions in literary criticism between myth and archetype. For Frye, archetype, borrowed from Jung, means a primordial image, a part of the collective unconscious, the psychic residue of numberless experiences of the same kind, and thus part of the inherited response pattern of the race. Frye argued that literature drew upon transcendental genres such as romance, which represents summer, tragedy, autumn, irony or satire, winter, and comedy, spring. These four genres constitute a central unifying myth. Frye classifies myths into four categories in his essay Archetypes of Literature. They are as follows: the dawn, spring, and birth phase. Myths dealing with the birth of a hero, his revival and resurrection, defeat of the powers of darkness and death, subordinate characters such as the father and the mother are introduced in the myth. Such myths are the archetypes of romance and rhapsodic poetry. So, here it is the birth myth. Second is the zenith, summer and marriage or triumph phase. In this phase, there are myths of apotheosis, the act of being raised to the rank of a god, the sacred marriage, and the entering into the paradise. Subordinate characters in these myths are companion and the bride. Such myths are archetypes of comedy, pastoral, and idyll. The third type is the sunset, autumn, and death phase. Myths dealing with the fall of the hero, a dying god, violent death, sacrifice, and the hero's isolation. The subordinate characters are the traitor and the siren. Such myths are the archetypes of tragedy and elegy. Fourth type is the darkness, winter, and desolation phase. Myths dealing with the triumph of these powers, the myths of floods, the return of chaos, the defeat of the hero are examples of this phase. The ogre and witch are the subordinate characters here, and these myths are archetypes of satire. So, these are the concepts introduced by Northrop Frye about the myths and archetypes that are recurring in literary works. With this video, we conclude the topics in the 20th century literary criticism prescribed for you. Thank you for watching.